gates started appearing all over the world. Researchers studied the phenomenon, but life moved on for everybody, despite the concerns. The saint applies to Yunjin, Han Yunjin. He takes a rest from loading boxes in the truck. His colleague hands him a bottle of water. His colleagues learn that Yunjin is working hard to save money for his younger brother's college. With their parents passing at a young age, Yunjin had to drop out of school to support them. Nice. Our MC's serious about responsibility. Yunjin proudly shows a picture of his brother to his colleagues while praising how handsome, tall, good and super talented that brother of his is. His love for his brother becomes apparent as he drones on about how great he was. We've got an MC with a brother complex. He only stops when he remembers that his brother Yuhyun will be getting out of classes early in a different area. A handsome student sits inside the bus as he looks over the gate. This student is probably Yuhyun, the object of Yunjin's affection. Yunjin talks with his colleagues regarding the booming moving business because people are moving because of the gates. Yunjin looks at the gate in their area and realizes a noticeable change. The gate's original blue color has changed to red. Red is definitely bad news. With a loud thud, the truck farmer suddenly stops. Yunjin climbs off to look and sees a giant bird-like monster on top of their vehicle. With a swoosh, the beast attacks the truck, and Yunjin sees a horde of flying monsters over the city. So to explain a bit of the story's setting, the gates became portals leading to other dimensions that people later called dungeons. From those gates, monsters got through. It was also discovered that monsters could only get through if the dungeon wasn't cleared, causing monster overpopulation. Yes, they get overpopulated over time. This phenomenon where monsters come out is later called dungeon break, and if dungeon breaks coincide or break in great numbers, it is called dungeon shock. Returning to Yunjin, he runs towards the monster with a stick and calls for his boss. I doubt a stick would do any good in this fight. Suddenly the boss lady stops the bird-like monster from attacking with her bare hands. This girl is on fire. To give humans a chance to fight against these monsters, certain individuals have awakened. They were later called hunters, responsible for hunting monsters and clearing the dungeons. With the existence of dungeons, hunters became the most essential occupation in the world. As for Yunjin's younger brother, Yuhyun Han, the handsome young man from the bus stands amongst the monsters' corpses. His hands are enveloped in black fire. Yunjin's baby brother, whom he loves so dearly, became one of the world's strongest S-rank hunters that day, an OP character for a brother. 8 years have passed since the dungeon shock, a time skip. A woman shows her awakened powers in a show, explaining the status window and how it shows a list of skills a person can use. This person is Yumi, who has an affinity for mold and moss, and developed phytokinesis as she awakened. She became a hunter after the incident and joined a guild. They go to dungeons to find mana stones, rare gems only found in dungeons. With the existence of S-rank hunters, challenging dungeons can be cleared, and these are also more rewarding. Among them, Yuhyun Han is one of the most famous S-rankers in Korea. He has created the Abyss Guild, and is known as the youngest guild master in the country. At 25, he is already rich beyond belief, and there's no mention of Yunjin. The program continues with an interview with Yumi, who expresses that E-rankers like her can only dream of becoming rich. The interview cuts to the news that this hunter featured in Hunter Files' show recently died in a dungeon raid. Oof! This reminds everyone that being a hunter comes with a great price. The TV drones on as an injured man listens in a crouched position. Wait, is this the MC? A gate is open in one area and people are littered outside. A man wearing a red jacket complains to his boss about hiring an F-ranker wimp like Yunjin Han in their raid. Yunjin sits in a chair, looking down, with 2 crutches beside him. He removes his mask as he acknowledges the complaining person. He's going to enter a dungeon in that condition. The boss stops the complainer from making more ruckus. Before we continue, take a moment to answer the question of the day. Who is the most sus manhwa character? Comment down below for a chance to be shouted out. Now back to the recap. The red jacket dude complains some more and says how Yunjin gets to survive every raid while the rest gets wiped out. He kept talking more crap, adding salt by mentioning how Yuhyun abandoned Yunjin. No, Yunjin raised him into what he is today. How could he abandon his older brother? What happened in those 8 years? Seriously, hearing this insult got Yunjin all riled up. He grabbed the complainer. The complainer simply laughs and kicks Yunjin in the chest. The guy mocks Yunjin for thinking he can mess with a D-ranker like him. Yunjin can only curse at him. Their team boss approaches Yunjin and gives him a buff by hardening his bones. While this won't heal Yunjin's legs, he can move more manageably in the following hours. The boss tells Yunjin to ignore the other guy. Yunjin can only grin and accept these words. Yunjin apologizes to the boss for having to mediate between them and encourages the boss while he's at it. The boss smiles and gives his thanks. They both stood up, and the boss walked away and smacked the red jacket dude in the head. The boss scolds the guy for bullying Yunjin and proudly says that Yujin's a walking encyclopedia on dungeons and monsters. Yunjin's knowledge might save you one day. Yunjin activates a skill and checks his influence. He confirms that Guildmaster Lim is under his influence. Yunjin doesn't care if he gets called ominous or a parasite because those names are not entirely wrong. The guild leader calls for Yunjin as they'll enter the dungeon. Yunjin swears that he'll survive with his skill. Inside the dungeon, hunters are fighting monsters using their skills. The boss reminds them to be careful while the others are busy with the hunt. Yunjin is busy mining for mana stones. The red jacket dude tells him to keep up since the guild will take 80% of everything he digs up. He's basically working for scraps as the rude guy kept saying crap. Yunjin started imagining him as an evil stepmother who won't stop nagging, like Cinderella. Yunjin started singing listlessly as he thought about how his brother abandoned him after awakening. Despite his begging, Yuhyun left, and Yunjin got drafted into the military. He still has to serve despite the chaos at this time. Yuhyun built his own guild, Abyss, that grew unrivaled in their country. It looks like his brother has already forgotten about Yunjin. As Yunjin was left behind, he could only think about awakening himself. He chose to take all his savings and go to a broker to help him awaken. The broker tricked him into signing a contract, and Yunjin did manage to awaken, except Yunjin only awakened as an F rank. I think this proves how Yunjin cared for his brother to the point that he barely cared for himself. Awakening with a useless rank only made him get criticized by the media and fall into debt. Yuhyun had to clean up his mess, and he bluntly states Yunjin's title of nurture custodian or caregiver. We'll stick with caregiver, whatever it is. Yunjin got the title for raising an S-ranker. Yuhyun tells him he shouldn't be so shameless, for he can't nurture him because all Yunjin does is cling to his feet and drag him down. Even with Yunjin's bad luck, his legs broke in one of his dungeon raids. He asked Yuhyun for help, but Yuhyun refused to lend his brother a healer. Yuhyun even thought it would be better to have his brother's legs broken so that he'll stop going into dungeons. He tells Yunjin to live a quiet life and stop dragging him down. Yunjin grimly grins as he thinks of the past and how he's useless as an older brother. He may be a parasite, but believes he can still survive in a dungeon with his skill. He can give the influence person a small buff with his care and encouraging words. That is his primary skill. But it's insufficient to let him survive. His title as a caregiver has given him a hidden skill that has saved his life every time he is in a pinch. A system suddenly informs Yunjin that his final thanks skill has been activated. The skill lets him gain double the effect of the target's skills and stats. Instead of being glad, this makes Yunjin nervous, and he starts limping to where everyone is. Yunjin's hidden skill, Final Thanks, lets him gain double the effect of the target stats and skills for a limited time. He survived a dungeon all this time because of this specific skill, but this skill is ominous. To activate the skill, it means that the target under his care is dead. A skill's effects sound good, but the activation cost isn't something a sane person would really wish for. Yunjin rushes as he limps and reaches the hunting party. The ground is filled with blood, and Yunjin finds the body of the guild leader on the floor. He hears growling and looks up. A monster with 3 heads has the rude guild member in its mouth. The red jacket dude curses at Yunjin for jinxing them, and those were his last words as he died. What a way to serve justice. Looking aghast, Yunjin can only stare as the last member dies. He realizes the monster is Locutus, the dragon king of venom and curses. Nobody has ever slain it, and it's a tier 1 dragon deemed undefeatable. So what is it doing in a D-ranked dungeon? The 3-headed dragon Locutus looms over Yunjin. Yunjin limps as he ponders why it is in a D-ranked dungeon. Yunjin uses the skill Fortified Legs on himself to give him a better chance of escaping. This is the skill the guild leader previously used on him. With its double effects, he runs away as he thinks of a way out. I doubt it'll make much difference. Locutus's tail narrowly misses him and hits the rocky ground instead. The monster launches another attack with its tail as Yunjin thinks of how he can survive. The tail whacks him, and Yunjin flies off and tumbles. He spills blood from his nose and mouth, thinking he is no match for the monster. The guild leader's memories start entering Yunjin's head, showing him what had happened with Locutus. The memory is only horrifying Yunjin more, and he trembles as he realizes he can move his legs. Seeing how a person horribly dies will make anyone squirm. Locutus roars as Yunjin clenches his eyes shut, thinking he doesn't want to die. A loud explosion goes off, and Yunjin is whisked away by Yuhyun. Shocked by his brother's appearance, Yunjin can only ask Yuhyun for help. Yunjin hides behind the rocks and tells his brother to stay back. Yuhyun turns his back as Yunjin warns him. Yuhyun faces Locutus and activates his skill, Blue Willow Leaves. A swirl of blue willow leaves appears, and Yuhyun dashes toward Lauchitas by stepping on the leaves. As Yuhyun reaches one of its heads, it gets wrapped in black flames, and he stabs the monster's head with it. The fast movement of his brother amazes Yunjin as he thinks, this is how an S-ranker fights. Yuhyun sees one of the heads gurgling a green substance from its mouth, and he leaps away. Yunjin screams for him to watch out because there is no antidote for Lauchitas' poison, which can cause a curse when it touches him. Big bro helping Lil bro with his walking encyclopedia skill, Yunjin says with gratitude. Hearing this, Yuhyun activates Titan Shield before Yunjin, but some poison still splashes on Yuhyun's clothes. Yunjin can only yell his worry as his brother slashes another head of Lauchitas. This melts Yuhyun's blade, and Yunjin observes his brother's constrained movement. Yunjin realizes that it is because Yuhyun is protecting him. He ignores his big bro, then saves him. Now, Union schools Yunjin as he fights. He told his brother he should have learned his lesson when his legs broke. Yunjin can't help but talk back to Yuhyun, but Yuhyun just yells at him to hide. You're confusing everyone, Yuhyun scolds. It made Yunjin think he was indeed a useless brother. Yunjin hoped that Yuhyun was there to save him because they were brothers, but hearing those words from Yuhyun only made him feel worse about himself. Yunjin equips his sword as he talks about how having an older brother like him must have been really tiring. Yuhyun sees this and tells Yunjin to get back to safety. Yunjin doesn't listen and stabs Lauchitas in the foot, getting a monster head's attention. Stubborn fool, Yunjin tells Yuhyun that he should just let him die there since he is only slowing Yuhyun down. With him dead in the dungeon, there's no need for a funeral, and Yuhyun's guild will be thrilled with his death. Lauchitas roars as it attacks Yunjin. Yunjin squeezes his eyes shut so if he doesn't see Yuhyun attack the dragon with his black flames. Is this how he redeems himself, wondering why he's still alive? Yunjin opens his eyes and sees his brother embracing him with wounds on his back, and Yunjin wonders when things got bad between the two of them. Yunjin and Yuhyun were very close. They got orphaned at a young age, and Yunjin has cared for his brother ever since. Yunjin asks Yuhyun if he's okay, but no, he obviously isn't. Yunjin is all confused as to why Yuhyun would still protect him. Yuhyun would even cost blood as he tells Yunjin that the Lauchitas falls asleep every 5 hours and will fall back asleep in an hour. At that time, Yunjin should take advantage of this time to escape. Yunjin started thinking that what was happening was wrong. He remembered how Yuhyun ignored him when his legs got broken. Yuhyun pushed him out of his life even when asked for help and even told him to learn his place. But what is Yuhyun doing here? These thoughts ran through his head as Yuhyun gave him a gate stone to escape the dungeon. Yunjin rejects it, saying Yuhyun should use it himself, but Yuhyun says it's useless. He won't be needing the gate stone. Union plops into Yunjin's arms. Yunjin calls for his brother, but a flash tells him it's useless. With his caregiver title in effect, the skill Final Thanks gets activated and will last for an hour. A system announces that the skills and stats of Yu Yonhan will be transferred at double effectiveness. Yunjin bursts with blue light as he receives it. Even if Yunjin never really activated the skill, Yuhyun is still recognized as someone under Yunjin's care. The Lauchitas attacks Yunjin by stomping its foot on them. Yunjin activates the blue willow leaves to escape with his brother in his arms. As they got to the ground, Yunjin could only scold himself as he embraced his brother's dead body. Yunjin manifests his spear using Yuhyun's black flames and gently settles Yuhyun into the ground. Yunjin stands up and stabs Lauchitas, his sword swift and fierce. He comments on how slow Lauchitas is now that he's twice as strong as his S-ranker brother. Yunjin's skills are both impressive and infuriating. As Yunjin fights, he also receives Yuhyun's memories. It's flashback time, and you'd even learn that his brother is F-rank. So he decides to keep his distance so that Yunjin will not be seen as Yuhyun's weakness, and this will keep him safe. Yuhyun commands his people to keep an eye on Yunjin. Yuhyun scolded his people for letting his brother get hurt to the point that his legs got broken. He commands everyone to take out everyone who did this. Huge in Yuhyun even goes as far as kicking Yunjin out and giving him money. We're all decided by Yuhyun so that Yunjin would stop entering a dungeon. But deep inside, Yuhyun is sorry that he has to resort to these actions to keep Yunjin safe. Every bad thing between them happened for the sake of protecting Yunjin. These memories entered Yunjin as he fought Lauchitas. He leaps on its head and uses it to jump higher. From above, he slashes Lauchitas, killing it. It rains inside the dungeon, and Yunjin looks at the fallen monster. The memories he received from Yuhyun enlighten him about what he was unaware of. Not only Yunjin, but all of us were also enlightened. Still, Yuhyun should have lent some healers for Yunjin's legs, or maybe, I don't know, tell them why he was doing those things instead of trying to hide it. The skill Final Requital is reaching its 1 hour time limit, and once it deactivates, Yunjin will soon die because of the dragon's poison. Yunjin can only embrace this death. Out of nowhere, The system lets him know that he unlocked an impossible achievement by single-handedly hunting a dragon, giving him the title of Dragon Slayer. With it, he'll also receive 10 gate stones, 5 tier 1 enchantment drafts, the red dragon greatsword, and a wish stone that can grant any wish. Despite receiving a lot of rewards, Yunjin has zeroed in on the wish stone. He asks if it can bring back his brother, but the system immediately tells him it can't return the dead. Yunjin could easily wish to be more powerful, become the greatest hunter, and get anything he wants. Still, it is useless since he only wants to have his brother back. With these thoughts, using wishes to turn back time before his brother's death, Yunjin promises to live a quiet life away from the dungeons. He changes his wish to turn back the time even before he awakens. Even if the time comes that he will regret it, good job on being specific with your wish. The system asks him for confirmation, and Yunjin affirms that he wants to turn back time. He will not let this happen again, and the wish stone glows as it grants Yunjin's wish. Give me a wish stone. I also want to be a regressor. Yunjin springs up and looks around. He identifies the space as the Heian Guild headquarters and checks that he returned to 5 years ago. Yunjin remembers that this was the day before he went to the Awakening Broker. Yunjin then remembers what is about to happen in that room and looks at the door. A door opens, and Yuhyun immediately scolds Yunjin as he comes in. Yunjin tears up as he sees his brother alive, with thoughts on how everything is back to how it was. Yunjin dashes at Yuhyun and hugs him tight. Yunjin was shocked, but he lets his brother hug him. Yes, they can make up now. Yunjin starts apologizing to Yuhyun. He admits he's wrong and apologizes for everything while hugging Yuhyun. Yuhyun even asks if Yunjin did something, and Yunjin calms him down. Yunjin pats his brother's head as he hugs him, saying how things have been hard for Yuhyun and how he's been a terrible brother for not realizing it. Yunjin pulls back and promises Yuhyun that he'll behave from now on so that Union will stop getting stressed because of Yunjin. Yuhyun starts hugging his brother back. Keep your promise, Yunjin. Yunjin feels a bit embarrassed, but he is happy that he can fix his relationship with his brother back to the way it was. Yunjin calls Yuhyun his young baby brother and tells him, "I love you," with the resolve to finally forget awakening or become a hunter. He suddenly receives a system message congratulating him for his awakening. The system announces that he has gained the legendary Dragon Slayer and Perfect Caregiver titles. With the Perfect Caregiver title, he receives the skill My Kid is the Best, which increases Yuhyun and Han's growth speed by 100%. Op support is born. Jin remembers that this was the day he had a huge fight with Yuhyun and ran off, but today is very different. Yuhyun is in the kitchen cooking dinner for Yunjin. Yunjin can only sit down and feel awkward with the current situation. Yunjin opens his status window while he waits for his brother to finish cooking. He sees he still has the Dragon Slayer title and starts feeling off about it. The Dragon Slayer title is an L rank or legendary ranked title higher than S rank. Yunjin clicks on the title and 4 skills appear. He gains 3 L rank resistances for poison, curse and fear, making him immune to these ailments below the legendary grade. The last one is a double S grade skill called Rauchtar's Bane, making Yunjin the natural enemy of Rauchtar and other dragon type monsters. Cool skills. I wish there was also sleep resistance, Yunjin thinks. He starts thinking he has become one of those heroes who becomes the most powerful person after regressing. Yes, you are, in a way. He starts daydreaming of Yuhyun fighting Rauchitas, and how he protects Yuhyun from the boss. He can imagine Yuhyun making googly eyes as Yuhyun praises him, or carrying Yuhyun in his arms. Yunjin thinks he'll be invincible with this skill, and is now an S ranker, or even an L ranker. He taps on his status, and sees that the stats are still low, meaning he's still an F ranker. Yunjin can only cry as he imagines how Rauchitas can quickly kill him with a swipe of its claws. Ha, you wish, thinking that the L actually stands for loser. He checks his other skills. His dexterity and intelligence boosts are still at E grade, while his title Caregiver upgraded to L rank and has new skills under it. His final gratitude skill upgraded to L grade, but he dismisses it as a creepy skill. He checks the L grade skill My Kid is the Best, and learns that the growth rate of the target can be boosted for 3 days if he uses the keyword. Yunjin gets shocked to see that the boost could be doubled, thinking that his brother would be stronger with a double rate compared to other hunters. Yunjin then checks the double S grade skill. My kid is so great, he thinks. The skill activates if he cheers the target in front of at least 5 intelligent beings using the keyword. The boost is based on the number of intelligent beings who heard it. So if 100 humans heard it, the growth would be 100%, which is the max boost Yunjin can provide with this skill. These 2 skills are pretty great, Yunjin thinks. These 2 skills can make Yunjin the most powerful hunter in the world in no time. And if he uses it with the whole guild, Hey, he'll be the strongest. Yunjin imagines how his skills will make him rich and famous until he sees the keyword, I love you. Yunjin bangs his head on the table, making Yuhyun worried, saying, I love you to your brother and in public, I feel you, bro. Might as well forget about that skill if you ask me. The keyword has changed because of his second awakening. Yunjin imagines that saying I love you to everyone he meets will easily send him to jail. Yeah, saying that to a kid you don't know is kinda, just don't go there. Yunjin looks at the last skill, Promising Sprout. It's an S-grade skill that lets him check the potential of an unawakened individual. Imagining the possibility of using his other skills on a target will help them reach their optimal potential. Yujin finishes his cooking and serves Yujin food. Yujin eats and compliments Yunjin's cooking, making his brother happy. Yunjin expresses his shock at learning that his brother knows how to cook. Yuhyun admits that eating his own food is safer to avoid poisons and curses. Yujin was struck by realizing that some people did this to his brother. Yunjin gets angry and grabs his brother's face, scolding Yuhyun for not telling him this, but Yuhyun can only say that this is the path he chose. Don't worry, little bro. Big bro will protect you now. Yunjin admits that he regrets their falling out. He pretended he wasn't close to Yunjin so that people wouldn't exploit Yunjin. Yuhyun didn't want to burden Yunjin with this and thought Yunjin wouldn't understand. Learning that he was wrong, Yuhyun is happy that his brother still cares and loves him, and the two enjoyed a meal together for the first time in a while. You guys should have just talked it out in the first place. They finished their meal, and Yuhyun stood to get back to work. Before leaving, he ensured Yujin deleted the broker's contact information from his phone. As Yuhyun leaves, Yunjin says he'll take care of everything before leaving, making Yuhyun pause. Yuhyun then says that Yujin will stay with him from now on. He states that Yunjin can't go outside, shocking our MC speechless. Before we continue, let's take a moment to shout out user year 8KZ9SS7S who commented more PDs on our Strongest Dark Lord video. Thanks for commenting. We have another brocon this time, and it's worse. Yunjin asks Yuhyun what he means, and Yuhyun even smiles, saying it's dangerous outside. Yuhyun explains that now that they are close again, Yunjin will not be safe anymore. Yunjin's enemies will be all over him, and he can't just let him wander outside. Yuhyun reiterates that Yunjin will now stay and live with him, the overprotective bro. Yunjin makes a run for it, but bars start appearing out of nowhere, and a mover asks for his signature for bringing all of his stuff. We need instant movers like this in real life. Yuhyun says that Yujin's place is now empty. Yunjin tries to argue, but Yuhyun reminds his brother's words of love, and how he forgave Yuhyun for his previous actions, meaning Yunjin agrees to live together. Wow, saying I love you means you can live together immediately. Now Yunjin is stuck in Yuhyun's place with his stuff littering the place. He wonders if the reset affected his brother's head in treating him like a kid. Yunjin takes some essentials and decides to bail, but as he opens the door, he sees the prominent figure of a man in a casual suit. The man glares at Yunjin as he asks what he can help him with. Yunjin identifies the glary man as Seonghan Kim, an A-rank hunter of World's Edge that serves as Yuhyun's right-hand man because of his defense skills. Yunjin asks if he can get through, but Seonghan refuses because it was the guildmaster's instructions to keep Yunjin there. Yunjin then argues, but Seonghan threateningly tells him to go back inside. Yunjin starts to get afraid like a rabbit before a bear, but a system interface appears as he thinks he can't back down. Yunjin activates his L-rank skill, Fear Resistance, removing the intimidation effects Seonghan has on him. Oh, so that's how it works. Yunjin stops fearing Seonghan and tells him that detaining him like this is a crime, but Seonghan only grabs him by his clothes and lifts Yunjin up. Desperate, Yunjin looks at his other skills and uses Promising Sprout. The use makes him stop and look at Seonghan closely. Seonghan is currently an A rank, but he can potentially become an S rank, and his S-graded skills are locked. Yunjin concludes that if Seonghan becomes an S rank, World's Edge can have 2 S rankers. Yunjin yanks on Seonghan's head as he tries to unlock using his skill. The system informs him that the target is not under his influence. Yunjin needs to use the keywords and activate his My Kid is the Best skill to unlock his target's full potential. Yunjin thinks that having Seonghan under his wings will grant him his freedom, but saying I love you to the A rank is somewhat cringe. Seonghan starts to get irritated, but Yuhyun refuses to give up. Yunjin draws a heart with his fingers, making Seonghan only stare. Yunjin tries again, but this time with both hands and a wink, only making Seonghan angry. He makes Yunjin go back inside. In the end, he can't say the keyword. Yunjin can only fall to his arms and knees, thinking the keywords must be changed. Yuhyun comes home, seeing an almost dead Yunjin in a mess. Yuhyun takes his brother from the floor, commenting how he still hasn't unpacked. Yunjin weakly answers that he's only a prisoner. Yuhyun says he'll eventually let his older brother out. This snaps Yunjin from his stupor. Yuhyun explains that Yunjin will be free once World's Edge becomes the most powerful guild in the country. Yuhyun promises that it will only take a year. Still, Yunjin gets depressed because he knows this took Yuhyun 3 years to accomplish. Yuhyun promises he'll still let his brother leave the house as long as Seonghan or he is there to watch over Yunjin. But Yuhyun retracts, saying he can't always take his brother out because clearing the dungeon can take several days. Yuhyun treats his brother like a pet that needs his walk. The thought pails Yunjin, and he tries to find a solution using his abilities and knowledge as a regressor. He knows the hunters that will reach the highest rank, and if he contracts with them, they can be his bodyguards. He can even stop Yuhyun from bossing him around. If he can do this, Yunjin announces that he'll find an A-ranker. Yuhyun looks at his brother in confusion, and Yunjin confirms he will. While Yunjin thinks about finding an A-ranker or an S-ranker that he can easily sway and sweet-talk, outside in an alley, a girl with poor clothes and shoes looks up at the sky, foreshadowing Yunjin's new recruit. Yuhyun asks Yunjin how he'll find an A-ranker himself. Yunjin fumbles and Yuhyun leers at his brother, stating that Yunjin has awakened. Yuhyun starts barraging Yunjin with questions about how he awakened. Yunjin panics and thinks about how he can't tell the truth to his brother, or he'll be locked up forever. Yunjin then tells Yuhyun that he's only an F rank at most. He can predict whether a person's ranking will be high or low, and how awakening is limited to only once a month. Yuhyun thinks about it and admits that it's not enough to make Yunjin a target. Still, Yuhyun even says that Yunjin's abilities will soon be obsolete because of the development of an awakening center. The center will help people have a safe awakening. Yunjin smiles and says his skills are useless, so Yuhyun should let him go out and find himself an A-ranker. Yuhyun finally agrees, but insists that Yunjin should still stay at his place. Yunjin is ecstatic about getting Yuhyun's permission. He gets ahead of himself, thinking he can create a guild greater than his brother's. Yeah, but he still has his brother as a warden. The next day, Yunjin, accompanied by Sanhan, goes to the Korean Hunters Association Awakening Registration Center. The place is a mouthful, so let's just call it the Registration Center. In the future, people are abuzz with anticipation, thinking he's accompanying a new big-shot hunter. Nothing to see here, people. Yunjin registers, and everyone learns he's only an F rank. People keep muttering, even commenting that Yunjin pretended to be an S rank. Well, not his fault. You all jump to the wrong conclusion. Yunjin takes out an envelope that Yuhyun gave him as pocket money for purchasing equipment. His eyes go big when he sees it's 1 billion won. Yunjin's insane, but I want to be his brother. Yunjin heads to the Hunters Mall on the 6th floor and is welcomed by the staff. They show him equipment meant to increase his magic power, but those were too flashy for his taste. He takes the studs of a dark fairy, which adds 29 magic power. Manticore leather gloves add 61 stamina and 20 strength, and a light fabric belt adds 16 dexterity. Then, Yunjin spends the rest of his money on contracts, potions, and more. He's basically a pay-to-win player. Seonghan was waiting for Yunjin downstairs by the car. Seonghan questions where Yunjin has been and reminds him to always tell him where he's going. The two of them were about to go, but Yunjin said they still had somewhere to go. Yunjin thinks about the Ice Witch, Yerim Park, who lives around the area. He remembers that she used to live with relatives. Yerim was a well-known A-ranker before the reset, so getting her will satisfy his brother. Yerim is to awaken 3 years from now when she turns 18, so meeting and making her sign a contract while she's barely in high school would be good for him. She's probably the girl previously shown at the end of Chapter 7. Yunjin visits different barbecue places and asks people about Yerim, but everyone he's asked so far says no. Yunjin eats a corn dog and asks Seonghan if they should just eat there. Then he sees a girl shouting at an older man. The girl bumps into Yunjin as she leaves, and Yunjin finally identifies the girl as Yerim. Yep, it's her all right. Yunjin passes his corn dog to Seonghan and runs after her. It was only possible because he equipped the light fabric belt. After some turns, Yunjin finally spots Yerim and calls for her. Yerim ignores Yunjin and just runs away to the streets. She stops when a loud honk and flash of lights come from a running vehicle. Yunjin leaps and saves Yerim from getting hit. Nice, for a second there I thought Yerim would become an isekai heroine. Yunjin asks if Yerim is okay and laments how he didn't land with a heroic pose. Yerim sits on Yunjin's back with a foot on his face as she asks him if he's a hunter. Yunjin says he'll explain, but she should move first. It could have been a more awkward position than that. And Korean barbecue sizzles, and Yunjin drools as he looks at it. The art is so good that it's making me drool like Yunjin. Yunjin tells Yerim to dig in while thinking that it was a good thing that he brought the corporate card. The two start talking, and Yerim confirms that Yunjin is the Heian Guildmaster's older brother, and she wonders why Yunjin is recruiting someone like her. Yerim doesn't really believe Yunjin and decides to leave. Yujin stops her by claiming that he knows Yerim's parents who used to help him and his brother when their own parents passed away. Yunjin wants to repay them by helping Yerim out. Yerim returns to eating and says Yujin's okay since he's not trying to rip her off. What will happen next? Find out next time by staying tuned for our future recaps. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more great recaps.